This is Jacqueline for RX for Joy.
I recently discovered a new tool for doing devotional Bible study. It's called mapping, and you look at one verse at a time. I was a little skeptical at first when I was asked to facilitate a class at my church, but I was so pleasantly surprised at how much I learned and how much I learned from the other women and how much it built a relationship between us. This is a brief video to get you started. This is what it looks like. You start with a circle where you write your verse. I use ESV or the New American Standard because that's actually translated word by word, and it helps me when I want to look up a word and actually know what it means in the original language. So I chose Psalm 90 verse 14. Satisfy us in the morning with your steadfast love, that we may rejoice and be glad all our days. The next thing I do is look at the context, and I write it down at the bottom of the page. I ask for basic questions like, who wrote this psalm? Moses. Who is he writing to? The Israelites. What's going on? They're in the wilderness, and Moses is giving his last bits of advice to the people. It's also a prayer. He has wandered in the wilderness with these people for 40 years, and he's thought, this is the key to true happiness, to truly being glad all my days. I look at other translations just to see if some words are different and pop out. I write them at the bottom on the other side of this page. Again, I can use all kinds of different translations at this point. I like to use color. So I highlight the words in color and then key those to the smaller circles that are around the outside of the big circle. I can use words or I can use phrases. Are there words that are repeated? Are there words that seem to be key to understanding the verse? And just as a reminder, there's no right or wrong choice here. This is your devotional study. Then I look up the word. I can use a regular dictionary or a Bible dictionary. For my words, I chose satisfy, steadfast, steadfast love, which is a phrase, morning, rejoice, all my days. And here's where the fun really begins. I'm just going to look at one of these words today to give you a taste of what this is like. Let's look at the word steadfast, or the phrase steadfast love. The word steadfast traces back to the Old English word steadfast, a combination of stead, meaning place, and fast, meaning firmly fixed. I'm not sure I pronounced those words right. The word was first used in battle context to describe warriors who stood their ground, and it led to the idea of immovable. I wrote some common synonyms of steadfast: constant, faithful, loyal, resolute. But then I have to say, well, what is the biblical meaning of steadfast? Steadfast is defined as unchanging, firmly fixed in place, immovable, and not subject to change. I love that these words describe God's love for me, and that reveals his character. On the next page, there is a section to say, what am I learning about God? And I will write that. Moses was praying in Psalm 91 that God's love would satisfy him and all of the Israelites every morning. And so I thought about also that word satisfy, of course. And that goes to the next section of cross-referencing, because I love the way God is weaving these words in and out of his scriptures, Old Testament and New Testament, some of the same words that give us deeper understanding and meaning. I usually end up with a lot of cross references. They're just so beautiful to discover. And I always want to find a connection to the New Testament, because we don't live in the wilderness with Moses. We live today in the New Testament covenant world. So I found John 3:16 as an example. For God so loved the world, there's that word love, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever would believe in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. Well, isn't that the greatest source of love and joy every day? Or John 10:10, or John 6:35, or Paul's prayer in Ephesians 3:18. Each of these references build deeper understanding, and I sometimes end up writing on the back of a page. Jeremiah writes, "The steadfast love of the Lord," steadfast love, "never ceases. His mercies never come to an end." And he also says they are new every morning. Psalm 118:24, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." The next step is to summarize, what have I learned about God and what have I learned about me or mankind in general? Steadfast also implies support. So I am so encouraged to think about God's steadfast support in my life, because I go to the part about me and I think, what really satisfies me? What gives me joy every day? What fills me up? And that is the truth, that God is there for me, that I am his child, that his love never changes. And of course, God's love displayed in Jesus is the true satisfaction for me as a Christian today. And so that's a lot to think about. And it takes me an hour or days to just keep pondering and thinking and meditating on all the truths that I have gathered about each word and about all the cross references. And it just fills my heart. It's a time to slow down, to review everything you've learned. One thing I did was I drew a picture of a steadfast person, because I like graphics. And that steadfast person is standing, that's me probably, standing on the foundational truth of God's steadfast love. And the next section is application and reflection. And a lot of times I just fill that with a lot of questions to help me look at my own life. For example, what satisfies me, truly satisfies me, so that I can be glad no matter what the circumstances of my life? And then how can I grasp more of this steadfast love of God for me personally? And I need to not be in a hurry through all the different steps. I end with prayer. This one really got me to my knees to say, God, I want more. I want to be able to grasp more of your love for me. My RX for joy today is, God's love is steadfast and it will satisfy you. Try mapping. It's a great tool. You will be rewarded with a greater understanding of God and his word. And then check out this, How Do We Know and Feel God's Love by Jeremy Linneman. And here's the website. My next video is going to be about my favorite resources to help me study